Hello everyone, and welcome back to the IPO Exchange, Deloitte's quarterly series designed to bring you the latest trends and happenings in the IPO marketplace and the perspectives of industry and marketplace leaders closest to the action. I'm your host, Nick Accordino, accounting advisory and capital market transactions partner. Today, we're in Portland, Oregon for a one-on-one conversation with Rodd Booth, CFO of BlackRock Coffee Bar. Rodd and his team recently completed their IPO in September, and today we're going to talk with him about what it was like taking his company public in today's market, what he learned, and what advice he would give others heading down the IPO path. Before we bring in Rodd, let's spend a few minutes recapping last quarter's IPO marketplace activity. Finally, the action we've been waiting for. 63 IPOs with total proceeds coming in north of $15 billion. Q3 2025 saw more IPOs executed that generated higher proceeds than in any other third quarter over the last 10 years, except for the record-breaking years of 2020 and 2021. Despite the typical midsummer slowdown, September proved to be an extremely busy month with 12 IPOs. The post-Labor Day boom alone resulted in one of the busiest weeks of the year. Out of those 12, Deloitte proudly advised on 8. Looking at this year as a whole, we have already seen 160 IPOs through the end of Q3, which means that this year has officially outpaced every year since 2022 in terms of total completed IPOs. And we still have 3 months to go. While the number of IPOs has been high, the majority of this year's IPOs were smaller scale deals from a size perspective. The IPOs that made September such a busy month spanned a wide variety of industries, including insurance, fintech, food and beverage, life sciences, and more. And if you joined us for that Q2 update, you'll also remember that we were expecting a strong pipeline for industrial, technology, and consumer discretionary companies. As it turns out, these sectors all had strong Q3 results, but in the end, the financial industry eclipsed each of these, ending the quarter with 11 IPOs and contributed a total of $5.2 billion in proceeds. Now that we're caught up, let's dive into what we can expect for the rest of 2025. Let's start with the macroeconomic perspective. For the first time in 9 months, the Fed lowered interest rates at the end of Q3 and signaled that there would likely be additional cuts before the end of the year, supporting our outlook for a robust IPO market for the rest of 2025 and into early 2026. In the current IPO marketplace, success fosters success. We've seen positive returns in the IPO market since 2024, which has increased investor appetite. The capital markets appear to be ready to invest in more companies within the fintech, digital assets, AI infrastructure, and software sectors. And as for the IPO pipeline, it's as active as ever. Currently in the market, there are 128 companies who have filed or updated their filings in the last 90 days. Judging by what we've seen so far this year, we fully expect to see many of these companies finalize their public offering in the next quarter. This should make for a great conclusion in 2025. Now, speaking of companies going public, let's bring in Rodd Booth, CFO of BlackRock Coffee Bar, to get his perspective as someone who went public this last quarter. Rodd, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here, and congratulations on your new IPO.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
Let's jump right in. Now that your IPO is in the rearview mirror, what advice would you give to companies looking to price soon? Is there anything that you would have done differently on your road to becoming a public company?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know if there's anything we would do differently. I think my advice to anyone looking to go the public route would be to start early and over-prepare your team. I mean, because it is very much, at least from our perspective, it was very much a team effort. You know, we really empowered leaders across the entire organization to be a part of it, to understand the process, and then really contribute and help, as opposed to just, hey, it's the CEO, it's the CFO, it's a couple of people. We really empowered the entire team to make sure that we got a great outcome and that also everyone felt like they were with us along the way.
So tell us a little bit about the roadshow process. That seems to be something that is a little bit eye-opening for a lot of folks as they go through this the first time. What was it like? How did you prepare? Any surprises along the way?
Yeah, the roadshow process is very much a process. I mean, you're meeting with 10 or more investors every single day, telling the same story, and you got to bring the same energy from the first meeting to the last. I think for us, it was really the preparation in advance of the roadshow. You know, we had meetings with over, 100 different investors and analysts leading up to it. Yep. And I think that really prepared us to be able to tell the story in a very succinct way. And really all the preparation in advance of the roadshow is really what pays off during the roadshow.
Yeah, pull on a string a little bit. What was it like introducing a regional coffee chain to a bunch of bankers and lawyers and other stakeholders in that process?
Yeah, well, Nick, as you know, I think a lot of bankers, a lot of attorneys, a lot of CPAs, they sort of run on coffee. So
drink a lot of coffee.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think the concept was familiar to them. I think for us, it was more telling the brand, the story, what makes us different, our people, the guest experience, and making sure that they could really also understand what we're all about and tell the story in a way that really is, true to the brand, but also delivering on the execution of the IPO.
What's the biggest eye opener that maybe you've faced as a CFO or just your organization as a whole since you rang the bell?
I think the biggest eye opener is just the rigors of being a public company, right? I mean, the accountability, the execution, instead of talking about it, you now have to be about it. And I think for us, we prepared well in advance to make sure that we had the right team in the right places so that we could deliver on our commitments. I don't know if it was an eye opener, but I think more than anything, it's sort of that first time thinking, okay, we were talking it, but now we got to be about it. And I think for us, the preparation again was a big part of that and making sure that we had the right team to continue executing far beyond the IPO.
Yeah, all the day two stuff, right? Comes at you fast.
It does.
Well, Rodd, thank you so much for taking the time. Thanks for being our first CFO guest on the IPO Exchange. Hopefully it won't be your last appearance.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
And just like that, another episode of the IPO Exchange is in the books. Thanks again to Rodd Booth for his time and insights, and congrats to the entire team at BlackRock Coffee Bar on their successful IPO. Be on the lookout for our next episode, where we'll be heading back to San Francisco for our inaugural Growth Summit, co-hosted by our friends at Latham & Watkins. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you at the summit.